So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. So, hi everyone, whoever is watching from wherever. We're streaming live on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, so I'm not sure where you're watching from, but I'm very happy to have you here. Uh, my name is Mike, and I'm the co-founder of Ujira Soft, based here in Berlin, but I'm not in Berlin right now. I was just telling OG that before we started. So here with me this evening is Ogochukwu, aka OG. Um, and today we're going to be talking about Web3, essentially the introduction to Web3. Nothing technical or very deep, just really chilled conversation. Um, Myself, I'm not an expert in Web3, whatever. I'm not sure about OG. She's going to tell us about herself. But really, for me, I just genuinely feel like there's a lot of things happening within the Web3 space, and it really blows my mind. And then when I just think about the opportunity to know that, hey, there's a new technology or a new way to use the internet or a new direction in which the web is going, I feel very excited about it. And I just feel like, hey, this is something very important that other people should know about. So I'll let OG introduce herself shortly, tell us about herself, who she is, and yeah, whatever she wants to share before we get started.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching this from and what time it is. It's nice to be hosted by Mike. My name is Ogochukwu Iwuchukwu, but everybody calls me OG. At this point, I feel like nobody knows my full name, but it's fine. Yeah, I am a tech enthusiast. I'm very interested in emerging technologies, and which is why I founded People Over Profits. So, People Over Profits is basically focused on educating and entertaining people, also informing people about Web3. And
Mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
I'm happy to share all the knowledge that I know. I'm not an expert myself. However, I've been, I'll say, a first-hand user of Web3 since 20, I think 2016, 2017. So about 8 years now, I've interfaced with Web3 firsthand. And I would like to share whatever it is that can be relevant to anyone who wants to come into Web3 or anyone who is trying to understand the system.
Great, awesome. Okay, so again, guys, from wherever you're watching, feel free to use the comment section. I'm not sure how it shows where you are, but there's a comment section there where you can just leave a question or yeah, make a request. So without wasting further time, let's get into the Web3 concept. You know what I found out recently was that there are actually two types of Web3. There's just the Web3 without a space and there's Web3 with a space and then dot zero. Are you aware of that, OG?
I mean, I see the both, but I'm not sure there's a difference. Tell me what the difference is. We're here to learn.
Yeah, there actually is. So the Web3 without space is it's also like a new way of using the internet, but then it's everything that cuts across the blockchain, DeFi, NFT, smart contracts, and how they are all interrelated. But essentially, um, a more secured way, a more private way to use the internet, data ownership by the people, and then everything tied around the blockchain, with all the securities that the blockchain offers. And then the web with space 3.0 is it's a more broader concept, in
Okay.
the sense that it also includes the blockchain and all that. But then they call it the semantic web, whatever that means. I'm not going to dive into that. But then they call it the semantic web and then the metaverse web, the virtual world where you can literally just be living elsewhere and doing stuff from your location. But what's more interesting is how they all interrelate. So the web space 3.0 is a broader version of like the next step of the web, or rather the human life, I would think, because with metaverse, it's a whole different way that people begin to live. And I feel like when these kind of things always happen, people don't really get it from the beginning until you get to that stage in your life where the only thing you know is that virtual reality.
Hmm.
Right now, we call it VR, and it just sounds very alien. It doesn't sound something which you can easily relate to. But the truth is, a couple of years or decades from now, that would be the only thing that maybe many people know. And this is not just about metaverse, but literally everything around Web3 or Web 3.0, however you call it. And that's why for me, I don't know if you watched the video I posted recently on LinkedIn about those guys back in the 90s, um, asking about the definition of the internet. You know, today for most of us who are like young today, we're very familiar with the internet because we're more or less like born with it. We use it every day. We can't live without it. Um, but I think if you ask people who are a lot older, um, they don't feel the same way about the internet. And I feel like that's also the direction in which, the Web3 is going. How do you feel about that? Like when you think about the internet, how it's just very common today, do you feel like there's going to be a time when blockchain, DeFi, cryptocurrency, everything around Web3 or Web 3.0 is going to become more or less mainstream,
Yes, 100%. It's that kind of thing that creeps up on you. You don't even notice. That's what Web3
right?
is. Yeah, we can see applications in different industries, even AI. Web3 leverages AI in different solutions to make the virtual concept come to life. And we can
Mm-hmm.
see it in social media, we can see it in healthcare, supply chain, virtually almost every major industry you can think about, there's a Web3 application. And I mean, if we start talking about the components of Web3, it's a whole lot. The underlying technology, blockchain, cryptocurrencies that people use, smart contracts where you can have agreements without permissions, decentralized applications. It's just like normal applications that you use, but the difference is that it's decentralized, right?
Mm-hmm.
DAOs. By DAOs, I mean decentralized autonomous organizations where you can have a say, you know, in whatever decision is being made. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
DeFi that you already mentioned, you can very easily lend, borrow, get interest. It's not something that you need to have $200,000 in your account or $1 million. I mean, I recently tried to open a Swiss account in Switzerland, and the minimum value was 500K, and I'm like, okay, good. I don't have this
What kind of
problem
account? What kind of account are you trying to open that the minimum opening balance is 500K? What the heck?
Yeah, so things like
Okay.
this, it limits some of these things, and it includes the common man, it includes anybody. If you're an artist, you can simply just have an NFT. I mean, the other day we had an NFT that sold for $69 million. So it's gradually creeping up on everybody. As you're watching movies, you see people say, let's transfer the money in Bitcoin, or there's a rare NFT, let's say, things like that is gradually becoming the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And for me, the reason why I thought to start this series of discussions around Web3, especially to sensitize people who are living abroad, is I feel like when you're living, for example, in the West, you have more access to better infrastructure. There's internet, there's more power. But even more interestingly is the networking, the connections. A lot of world-class events around trending technologies are held in this part of the world. Um, and then you can actually see those things in practice, and then not to mention the friendly regulations around new or trending technologies. So, which I personally feel like, hey, this is something that if you're living abroad, you need to learn about it. You need to understand it. You should get familiar with it. Don't just see it and let it pass you by. Even if you won't interact with it, you won't do something, but understand how it works and maybe just know which direction that it's going. Um, so that for me, I feel like it's a narrative that I want people to begin to start looking into because, like you said, it's just creeping in on people, and before you know it, you it just passes you by, and then you wonder, where have I been the whole time? Um, Maybe let's start a bit with how did you get onto the blockchain and everything you do around the Web3? Would you mind giving like just a brief, I don't know, story about how it all started, how you stumbled on it? I'm happy to share mine too, of course.
Yeah, of course. I think it was in 2015, 2016. I got very
Okay.
curious about finance because at a very young age, I started saving and I didn't know what to do with my savings. right? Just
Okay.
small money here and there. It wasn't a lot. I wasn't like Warren Buffett, who started investing when he was 10. But when I was a teenager, I used to save a lot and I just didn't know what to do with my savings. So I started, researching, looking up, asking questions. And it was a good thing I had friends who were like me. So someone just introduced me to Bitcoin. The guy was like, hey, you should check this out, Bitcoin, and a couple of other alts that were out there then that are no
Hmm.
longer around. This was 2016. And I'm like, okay, what's this about? Yeah, I can give it a try. And then I bought my first Bitcoin in 2016. I still have like records of it on blockchain.com. And it was interesting for me because apparently the next year was the bull run 2017 and I just left it there. Right, it wasn't so much. I didn't buy like 10 bitcoins or something. I mean, how old was I then? Right, and I saw it
Right.
appreciate and I'm like, there has to be something behind this. There has to be more than you put your money into
Mm.
something, it appreciates over time. So I started digging deep into what it really is. I started studying, I started taking courses, and I got to understand the technology behind Bitcoin, as it were. And then I got introduced into other altcoins, Ethereum, Cardano, and the rest, XRP. And for me, it was interesting the different use cases apart from the monetary essence of it. In
Yeah.
supply
Yeah.
chain like VeChain, you can build on top of things. I'm like, oh wow, okay. Yeah, so for me, that was really the interesting part. I was looking for a kind of decentralized finance. And for me, crypto was my first exposure, even before
Mhm.
other things like stocks, surprisingly. I mean, I do stocks now, but for me, crypto was the very first, investment form of thing that I had access to. Yeah, so that's really my story.
Okay. I think that's a very interesting narrative, or also how you ventured into the space, more from the finance part. In my case, I don't recall what I was reading exactly, but that was back in 2016. I was writing my master's thesis, and I guess I was bored or so, and I was reading stuff. I don't remember. And then I started reading about Bitcoin, and then I stumbled then on, I think it's bitcointalk.org, the forum where Satoshi first posted that his paper, I believe. And then I just started going deep and deep and deep into that. And then I stumbled on airdrops, and then you would just do some activities on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever. You get these free coins. Boom. You know, the thing is, I was really open-minded. Um, and somehow I believe I'm lucky up to this time. I never really hurried to do stuff. I would take my time to read a bit and understand. And I was also like really slow in taking actions. Um, but all along, I was just really curious. I was always asking myself, what exactly is the use case? The use case of all this thing. One is very obvious. You see money flying here and there, but then is it all about money? Because it just felt like, hey, anyone can just out of thin air launch their coin, do the airdrop. Before you know it, it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and then it's on coin market cap. Before you know it, it's going into billions of market cap. And I'm like, how is this happening? So I just felt like that's so much money to not make sense. That's so much money to be in vain. That's so much money to be scammed. That's so much money to be whatever people call it. And then along the line, I stumbled on what are these guys? IOTA, the guys that are solidly doing something around Internet of Things. Um, well, I stopped following them for a while, but I really followed what they're doing and I kept reading. But what I noticed is that back then in 2016, 17, not many of them were, you could actually have the applications. They were like, we are going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, you know. Um, and then everything just went along that way. I participated in all the airdrops, and frankly speaking, I got a lot of Ethereum for nothing. I didn't pay to have them because I was doing the airdrop. So I was not sleeping. I stopped writing my thesis, and I had an extra semester because I got so deep into that stuff, really. But I think the most interesting part for me, which frankly speaking, that's actually the reason behind every other thing, including Ojurasoft and Settling. As I stumbled on Steemit.
Mm.
Before before that, I was genuinely interested in sharing information about studying, working, and living abroad. I was doing that on my own. I was doing that on Facebook. I was doing that on Instagram and on Twitter. And then I started attending meetups, discussing the blockchain, just looking for stuff, trying to understand what's happening in the space. And then I attended one of these meetups back then in Berlin, 2017, Steemit. And then I got to understand that Steemit is like the first social media platform built on top of the blockchain. Then I got to understand, okay, the difference in what they are doing, and you can purely see how Steemit is very different from Facebook in the sense that one, it's completely open source. Anyone can just sign up. There's no verification. You don't need any of your personal information to interact with it. But what really blows my mind is that you actually make money for posting content and engaging with content or curating content. And for me, I feel like, hey, you spend your time genuinely doing what you love to do, and you
Mm-hmm.
earn from it. You don't have any stupid ads popping up top of your face because you interacted with something. The next time you open Google, then you see something telling you to buy and some creepy stuff that always happen. And I really started to understand what's going on. Then I felt like, okay, hey, this is actually cool. Maybe I can use Steemit to begin to share my whole study and work abroad stuff. Then I dived more into Steemit, and then from there I got into different other spaces, same different blockchain-based social media platform. I think for me that was the first interactable use case that I could understand that okay, hey, this is actually something. It's not just we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but you see what they do. You earn money because you literally convert your Steam coin to USDT, and then you can cash out in euros or whatever currency you have. And that was like, okay, this is, a complete, you start from the beginning until the end when you have the money in your pocket, and it's really cool. But again, I feel like when most people hear about crypto, or rather Web3 or blockchain, what always comes to mind is cryptocurrency. What comes to mind is money. But I feel like that's not really the case, and people have to look beyond that, you know. Um, Maybe we could talk a bit about the different components of Web3, some use cases. I think cryptocurrency is powering everything because most actions are like transactions. So you always need to pay for gas fees and all. And that's where the crypto comes in, which is then tradable and all. But beyond that, there are actually use cases, where people can do stuff. Maybe you could just shed some light on the different use cases, or that a layman can actually understand, hey, what is Web3 and what direction are we actually going?
Yeah. So for the components of Web3, I mean, it's already obvious. The underlying technology is blockchain technology. It provides a decentralized and immutable ledger where things cannot be falsified. You can't change anything, which gives room
Mhm.
for example, hospital records, like inheritance for real estate. You can't change some of these things, it can be falsified. And then it's very transparent and secure, and the network is distributed, it's not centralized in one place. So, different nodes in a network. That's one, the technology is blockchain. Another use case or another component is crypto assets. So crypto
Mhm.
assets include cryptocurrencies. So we have stable coins like USDT, USDC, DAI. So these are pegged to the dollar one on one. And of course, other cryptocurrencies that solve different problems or that are solving or providing different solutions. For example,
Mhm.
smart contracts like Ethereum. So Ethereum is a smart contract that one can build on. So for example, people don't even know that BNB was built on Ethereum. But then
What's
BNB
BNB
now,
again?
Binance, so Binance
Ah,
can,
yeah, 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 for sure. Yep, yep, yep.
yeah,
Hmm.
and now Binance has also their own smart contract, BSC, and there are so many others like Ethereum. They call them Ethereum killers, but they are still just basically smart contracts where you can have an agreement. Basically, you don't need to be physically there. Once there are certain parameters that are checked, then everything's fine. And these things happen in milli microseconds. Yeah, so there are so many: Solana, Cardano, so many of them, Tron, and then there are decentralized applications. So these are applications, for example, like very popular Binance. Binance is a centralized exchange. So imagine what you can do on Binance, you can do in a decentralized application where there isn't a central authority holding your, I would say, your coins. They said not your keys, not your coins, right? If you
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally.
if you have
Yeah.
BTC on Binance, you don't really have BTC, right? It's not, once
Mm-hmm.
you don't have your keys. Yeah, so people prefer, especially crypto natives, they prefer to trade or perform actions on decentralized applications. So,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
example,
yeah.
Jupiter is one. I know a lot of people who do stuff on Solana. So on Jupiter, you can do some decentralized trading, buying and selling. And then DAO, I talked about decentralized autonomous organization. So it's an organization that is run by smart contracts where decisions are collectively made by the members rather than a centralized leadership. So
Yeah,
rather than
makes
the
sense.
owners of the centralized exchange or whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a distributed, autonomous decision that is being made. And then DeFi, I really love DeFi. So DeFi, you can lend, you can borrow, you can get interest. If you just have cash, instead of sitting on your cash, you can just put your cash and then you have a considerable amount of interest, that you
Mm-hmm.
receive from that. And you can do all this on DeFi. We have
Mm-hmm.
things like Aave, where, I mean, there's a whole lot. And then NFTs, like I mentioned. So when people talk about NFTs, it's not just art, it could also be music. It could be anything that you think is what having a, like, I'll say, an original piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
non-fungible. So it means that it's not duplicatable. So for example, if you own a piece of the Mona Lisa, you own that piece. And this
Yeah.
is not something that was possible before. How can you own a piece of the Mona Lisa? Until the NFTs came, yeah, you could now have a piece, a little bit of something that you can afford. You cannot maybe afford the entire Mona Lisa, but with NFTs, you can have a little bit of this and that, and you can buy and trade and buy and sell these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So to other use cases, we also have something called decentralized identity. So it's like you have a proof of qualification or a proof of identity that is not, for example, your fingerprint. There aren't two people with your fingerprint, right? It's just yours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is also something that the blockchain has made available, and tokenization of assets. So
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
so for example, a piece of real estate, you can,
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
the I think, decentralized personalized infrastructural network, you can build fractions of something and own fractions of something, of an asset. For a
Yeah.
house, like a house, for example, in Berlin, houses cost like 350, 500, 1 million euros, and you don't have 1 million euros. You can build a
Mm-hmm.
piece of, if it's 10K that you have, and you can own a piece and you can sell
Yeah.
those pieces, you know.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
blockchain has made available. And you talked about social networks. Yeah, you can get paid real time for your content. You don't have to wait until you have
Mm-hmm.
2 million followers.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
No, I really like how you explained all those components. And right now I'm thinking about some good entry point for people who have not interacted with the blockchain in any way or Web3 applications in any way. I feel like DeFi, for example, and then yeah, tokenized assets, as you mentioned, they call them real world assets. I feel like those could potentially be good entry points for people who are not familiar with the ecosystem. Of course, for like someone who is just new, the initial onboarding might feel a bit overwhelming, but after a while, you really get used to the flow. So an example could be like, okay, hey, you want to really understand what is DeFi, decentralized finance. And what that actually means is your money is liberated. Your money can actually do a lot of things for you. You know, I think if we check within the international community or in the community of international students or expat professionals, I'm sure we're going to find many people that have thousands of euros in their bank account just sitting. And I'm not sure how much percentage you earn on that money sitting in the bank, but it's definitely not a lot. You know, I don't know, 1, 2, 3% max, if at all.
You're actually
And
losing money to inflation.
okay, that's even that one. That's even that one. You lose money to inflation, and then not to even think about the really sad and crazy part, bank charging you for keeping your money that they are using. I don't want to even talk about that. Um, but I feel like for sure, again, this is definitely no sort of financial advice to anybody. I'm not giving that. Ogochukwu is not giving that by any means. We're only here to just educate you and inform you about stuff. You need to also do your own research and then understand that everything you do around crypto space and with money, they're very risky. So yeah, seek financial advice wherever you have to do that. But coming back to the entry point, um, yeah, let's say you have some cash, you want to play around with $100. And the $100 in your account, and then there are many decentralized platforms where you can actually, you know, interact with DeFi. What does that actually mean? There's your money in the bank, and then you have the option to a borrow some more money. You have the option to lend. You have the option to contribute in a liquidity pool. And then I feel like what's really mind blowing is people coming together and then under the instructions of smart contract are able to interact seamlessly, trustlessly, and just everything is happening. Tack, tack, tack. Whether you believe it or not, you understand it or not, it's working, and the train just keeps moving. Um, for the first time, just I think 2 years ago, that was when I really started interacting with DeFi. And frankly speaking, when I got to understand that, I stopped trading. I mean, I was never a big fan of trading. For me, I feel like over time, if you just hold, in most cases, your what you hold would just appreciate better for you because trading also comes with its own spirit. And then when I got to understand DeFi, I felt like, hey, this is a more reasonable approach for people who have some reasonable income to let their euros or dollars just work for them. Instead of sitting in the bank, you can do for example, you contribute to a liquidity pool. You mentioned the difference between Binance as a centralized exchange versus other exchanges like Jupiter or like Uniswap or like PancakeSwap or PulseX, if you're familiar with PulseX, that are decentralized exchanges. So you can interact with them seamlessly just from your Web3 wallets. And now, how do those exchanges have the money there? This money is contributed by individuals that are contributing to that pool. And I feel like this is 100% taking the way people manage traditional finance or TradFi as they call it. So, you know, I would call it maybe a fairer system, People put their money, depending on how much you put into the pool, you get a share of the, transaction fees. And then not to mention if there's also farming there, you get to farm, your LP, and then you earn you know, on the farming token, which you can then trade. There's a lot your money can do for you, and that's just mind blowing. So yeah, if you're just watching this, might sound a bit complicated. I had an experience recently. A friend approached me and wanted me to teach him how to trade. I told him, hey, I stopped trading a long time ago. I never really was a big fan of trading. I do DeFi more because I feel like, hey, I get to use every few penny to do a lot of work for me, you know. An interesting thing also within the DeFi space is you can compound your interest, So whatever you earn on it, you reinvest it into that space, and then it's just growing for you. Of course, there are also the risks that the assets that you have, if you're not using stable coins, for example, that the assets that you have might depreciate in value, no doubt. But again, we also know how it works in the crypto space. It goes up, it goes down, the cycle goes up. You can check all the trends and know when next is going to rise or whatever. I frankly don't pay attention to that because I know that after every couple of years, by the time you go back, it's a whole different story. And if you genuinely know how to protect your assets, how to, keep the private keys safe, if you're using a hard wallet, how to keep them safe and all those things, then you're just good. And I mean, you would not put money that for emergency's sake, you would still have some other spare money, but um, I feel like just that knowledge to understand how it works, for example, I think DeFi is a very good use case. and then tokenized assets. I think that's also quite interesting because, for example, you can't buy a house because it's not everyone can buy a house. It's very expensive. But now you can also through um, um, dApps that offer access to interacting with real world assets that you can actually get a piece of it. The
Yeah,
house costs, I don't know, 1 million USD. You don't have 1 million USD. But then you don't have to go through all the troubles of real estate, bureaucracy, and all that. You can just
exactly.
from the comfort of your home with a few clicks buy a portion of that with however much you have. And you are into real estate. Like it's
Exactly.
mind blowing. You know, like I know how many times I've tried to buy a house or whatever. And each time I talk to those guys and then they tell me the conditions of the bank and all, I
It's
just go
crazy.
back home sad, sad again. But you don't need to have 50K, you don't need to have 100K. Whatever you have, you can actually interact with it. You can get a piece of that asset. And I feel like maybe this could be some good entry point for people who are not familiar with the ecosystem. Just begin to get used to the tools and real life, use cases, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I quite agree. I mean, the first thing, like you mentioned, is education, before you step into anything, no matter what it is, the more you know, the less risky it is for you. The more you know,
100%.
the less you are prone to making mistakes. So education for me has always been the very first, even when I'm starting something and I invest a little money or time, I know that the first investment that I'm making in terms of money and time, I'm going to learn with it.
Yeah,
So yeah, I
yeah.
like to learn fast, and when I learn fast, it means I am involved real time. I'm not learning from okay, just reading stuff. No, I put $10, $5. Okay, I know I might lose this money, but I will learn faster because I know there's real time and money invested. Yes,
Yeah,
education
yeah.
is key, taking courses. I used to tell people that always asked me, how were you able to get a job with a blockchain asset management company? I told him I just took courses. I just took courses. I learned the lingo. I was always on YouTube. I will study. I knew everybody that was everybody in crypto. On crypto Twitter, I knew who was who. I was following everybody. On my Telegram, you'd see crypto groups. I mean, you're involved in it because I saw the opportunities. I saw what it could offer. So education is key. And then you can start small. You don't need
Hmm.
to start with $10,000 or 200,000, or you don't
No.
need to. I mean, $100, five, whatever it is that is small in your definition, you can start small, and then join
Hmm.
communities. There's so many crypto communities, and they are very, very, very welcoming. Crypto, I've never seen an industry as welcoming as crypto people. They don't care. They understand that people are newbies, and you would find people at your level. You would find people
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
know a lot less than you do. So join
Hmm.
communities, interact with Web3 wallets. There is more to crypto than Binance and Bybit and KuCoin.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
pancake
Hmm.
swap, there's sushi swap, there's a whole lot.
Hmm.
Interact with Web3 wallets. Don't be afraid of these things. They don't bite. I've
Yeah,
seen
totally.
others who use phantom wallets and they were trading meme coins, during a couple of weeks, months back when the whole meme coin thing. Yeah. So interact with Web3 wallets. It's not a Gen Z thing. It's not a generational thing. It's across all generations. You can learn
Definitely.
and participate in DAOs, be a contributor. I mean, these are options, these are different things, ways you can come in and invest carefully. The same way you would invest in TradFi carefully, do your due diligence, do your homework. The same way, because there are a lot of bad actors,
Of course.
so you don't want to be a victim of a scam. You don't want to be a victim of losing all your funds. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise anybody to put all the money that you have in crypto,
Hmm.
especially when you are
Hmm.
not very knowledgeable or experienced.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Totally, totally. I mean, now talking about um, how people could get in or what they could do, maybe I think it's a good point to just actually talk about the evolution of the web space, how it all started until where we are right now. And I feel like this is actually the key point, the most important points that people need to understand. So there was the internet first, which came, I don't know, pre the 90s. Um, and then it was at that time primarily used by maybe the US militaries and then research centers, universities. It was mostly something internal. It was not used externally. It was not used inclusively. It was just exclusive to certain organizations. And then it was called more like a protocol, how computers communicate with each other. Taking me again back to that video, which I posted a couple of days ago on the live show where people were asking, what's even the internet? Can I email it? Can I can I email the internet? And then they asked the guy to explain what the internet is. And I mean, today is really funny, but that was 1994. Um, and then came the web, the web one, which was like a bunch of hyperlinks, really static. So you just see the page, and then that page is then linked to another web page, which is then linked to another web page. So you just see what you're giving. So it was 100% read only, very static, mostly used for ads, information, and stuff like that. But you couldn't do anything with it. You could just, yeah, like it says, web connected to so many other things, but you couldn't do anything. And then gradually, so I think that was between the early 90s and then to the early 2000s, and then somewhere around the 2004, 2002, 2003, 4 came then the second version of the web, which was now more interactable. So not just the static web anymore, but then they call it the social web or a more interactable web, or better still, the web which is read and write, because then you can also like create an account the way you can create accounts on social media platforms. Um, you can also create other things on top of the web. You can actually build on top of the web. You can interact with the web. So it was not just a bunch of hyperlinks, but something which was more interactable. And I think the social media platforms and then e-commerce, they really took it to the next level. And then other things that followed. Pretty much how we use the web today, with whatever you know about the web, whatever you know about the internet. But what's very interesting is, which is for sure, are a couple of issues. The first one is the control of data. That's the
Hmm.
control of data. Then the second one is also the privacy, and then there's also security, amongst many other issues. Now, as we can tell, they are the big tech giants: Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Google, and a whole bunch of them. Well, not a bunch of them, just a few of them actually, because that's why they call the big players. Now, these guys literally own the web, because when you see, I was checking just a few days ago, the distribution of browsers, and Chrome is globally speaking, Chrome is taking 64% of the use case of browsers, and there are thousands of browsers in this world, and Chrome is taking 64%. Well, there are also other things, but these guys, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, they own all the data literally. And now the sad part is they can actually manipulate this data. And now you get to do things that you normally would not want to do, but you don't know it. It's some kind of controlling, but it's creepy sometimes, because you watch something or you're having a conversation with your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or whoever, just a conversation, and then you open Facebook and they're telling you to buy something around that conversation. Have you had that experience before?
Yeah, I have actually. I have
I've
actually. A
had
friend of
that
mine was
like
telling me, and it
a
sounded so
million
creepy,
times. It's
but
so creepy. It's so creepy. Like, how? This is my speaker. I wasn't playing anything. Was someone watching me from my phone? What's happening? But literally, we're having a conversation, and then boom, you open Facebook or you search on something on Google, and you're seeing an ad about that thing. So the data engineering is just is it's massive, and it's actually bad, because it's so centralized. So there's that part, and then of course, which further translates to then the privacy of the users, which is almost like zero. Some time ago, I saw a notification on Facebook, and it was saying, we will now begin to show you ads based on your interaction on Facebook. We will begin to show you, like, I have nothing to say or to do. They're going to begin to show me that. I saw it and I was really laughing. Truth is, for some of these things, you genuinely are interested in them, no doubt. But I feel like the problem is the social aspect, the psychological aspect, when you act, but you don't actually know what you're doing, why you're doing certain things. There's that one. And then not to mention, of course, the breach of data, where your data has been sold and then used for whatever. And then really, really, really very sad. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs suffer from that. An example is people who provide online courses, for example. You are providing online courses through a third-party platform, Udemy, Coursera, or wherever, and then they decide to change their policies overnight. You have no say. So it's
Mm.
either you continue with their policies or you lose everything because you've built all your business on top of that platform. And now overnight they say, okay, hey, we really have to cut down the price because of whatever the competitors are offering cheaper prices, whatever. You who are the tutor, you know how much time you've invested, you set your price and everything, but they say, hey, you have to cut it down. You have no option. So there are all these kind of cases that are happening around the Web2 space or the current use of the internet via Web2 applications, which is really disturbing. And now there's also the security aspect, where you can literally just lose all your data just like that because of the uh, everything is coming from one primary server, in as much as they are distributed globally. But if something happened to that central point, everything is literally lost and gone forever. And I think a lot of people put, yeah, I would say their life and whatever on top of some of these applications. And it has happened over and over and over again. So these and of course many other things, not to mention also traditional finance and how the financial system is being run. Um, I think there has not been a lot of innovations within that space, at least compared to the innovations that we have seen in the decentralized world just in a few years, just in a few years. So by the time you look at all these things, for sure, it's very obvious that there has to be another solution to that. It was the same issue back then with Web 1 when it was static. You couldn't do a lot of things with it. It was only accessible to a few people.
Yeah.
There's also those issues with the Web 2 now. And this is what people need to understand about the background in the whole Web3 technology. You know, data is now been distributed, decentralized, and there's also that privacy aspect. You don't have to create an account with your personal details, at least not when you're interacting with a decentralized application, for example. you know. And then also the aspect of your privacy or the things that you can actually do with your money then becomes also very interesting. Of course, it's not, there are a lot of regulations around it, and you can't just jump and do everything at once. But these things are going to change. They're going to change over time, and it just makes sense that one knows about this thing and can already begin to foresee the direction that the internet is going, foresee the direction that the web is going, and yeah, just um, get onto the train.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are so many things that migrants can leverage. I mean, for example, the infrastructure, most migrants have access to reliable source of internet. That is not the case in developing countries or
100%.
underdeveloped countries. That's one. The financial inclusion, it's Web3 offers financial services that people have access to. I mean, you're in a system where there are ETFs now. There's the Bitcoin ETF, there's the Ethereum ETF, and I believe Solana will be coming up soon, XRP, and a couple of others. And yeah, and there's a lot of education going on. I mean, the educational content can be overwhelming. So
Hmm.
many free content out there. And then professional networking. For example, in Berlin, there are so many crypto, blockchain, Web3 related um, networks and communities you can join. I think there was a time Chainlink used to do a lot of. I even got some T-shirts from attending Chainlink events here in Berlin.
Nice.
There's so many of them. And entrepreneurial opportunities, you can start up whatever in Web3, anything related to Web3. There's so many opportunities. And
Hmm.
the regulations are quite clear here. For example, in Germany, if you hold for a year, it's tax free. I think it's the same in Austria as well. So
Hmm.
there's a
Hmm.
clear cut definition of how they handle some of these things. Yeah, so I feel like the barrier to entry is very low,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
certain things are defined, and
Hmm.
it's not as vague as it used to be some 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
cycles are even predictable. So, for example, the crypto cycle is defined by the Bitcoin halving that happens every 4 years. So, you can
Mm-hmm.
even, for someone who is not a very patient person to go through all the information and all the news and everything, you can plan yourself accordingly to every cycle. Like maybe just before
Mm-hmm.
the blockchain halving, I invest XYZ amount, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then if
Mm-hmm.
I need money, I pull out maybe after 1 year or something, you can even plan accordingly. Yeah, so I feel like the barrier to entry is low. There are so many opportunities, and with little or no, I mean, whatever you're looking for in the blockchain space, in the Web3 space, you will find. And if you don't
Definitely.
find it, it's an opportunity for you to start it.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. Really, you killed it there. Yeah. Whatever you're looking for, you find it. And if you don't find it, that's an opportunity for you. And maybe this brings me into to the next part, which we're going to use to round up. Tell me about your favorite blockchain and why that is your favorite blockchain. Your favorite blockchain and why that is. I'm going to tell you mine too.
Right. Okay. It used to be XRP.
For
It
real?
used,
No
it
way.
used to be. I'll tell you why. So
Okay.
XRP is something that has consistently given me returns. I can remember there was a time, I think it was 2020 before COVID or during COVID, right? And that was before the 2021 bull run. So I bought some XRP, and I sold like 3 or 4 months. It's like my timing was super, super perfect. And did not happen for all the other previous cycles for me, because I think the more I stayed in blockchain, the more I knew. And yeah. And XRP gave me the most returns. So somehow I just had a soft spot for XRP. But now XRP has not really been performing. And I see that
Yeah.
because the trend keeps changing every cycle. But
Yeah.
for me right now, I would say Solana. Two
Okay.
major reasons: it's cheap and it's fast. It might not be as fast as some of the other newer ones coming up, and cheap as like Ton, but you can build on Solana. Like the for example, the meme coins, they just took, I mean, before Tron just started recently, a lot of people made generational wealth from Solana. When I mean I mean life changing $10 to $1 million kind of money. And funny thing is, I went to London last month and I just picked up the New York Times, and I saw a section that was dedicated to meme coins. I was in awe. I'm like, really? New York Times? What? I was surprised. That's what I mean by creeping up on us. Next thing you know, it's the norm. Yeah. So for me,
100%.
Solana is really cool. With your Phantom wallet, you can do and undo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. What's yours?
Mm-hmm. Okay, they were really interesting. I mean, I messed around with Ripple many years back, I think 2017 or 18. But I think then that was when I was actually just mostly focusing on the financial aspect of blockchain or cryptocurrencies. But subsequently, when I got like more deeper understanding and I was more interested in the tech and the application rather than, um, flipping it like this and that every cycle, then I stumbled on first on Hex, not so popular maybe, and then on Pulse Chain. So, but I think right now my favorite blockchain is Pulse Chain. So, Pulse Chain, have you heard about Pulse Chain?
Of course.
Okay, cool. So Pulse Chain is a complete state fork of Ethereum. So literally, at the block height when the fork happened, everything that existed on the Ethereum blockchain, there is a copy of that on Pulse Chain. And literally everything that you can do with and on Ethereum, you can also do it with and on Pulse Chain. So when you think about how Ethereum is, yeah, arguably the most valuable blockchain out there. You can also think about Pulse Chain in that light, in that vein. But what's even more interesting is the fact that Pulse Chain was not just a copy of Ethereum, and like you hear they call Ethereum killers, there's Binance, Solana, and all those guys. Pulse chain is not an Ethereum killer, so to speak. Pulse chain actually recognizes the value that Ethereum has within the Web3 ecosystem. And the main goal of Pulse chain is to, share that load, from Ethereum. And now I feel like the guys behind Pulse chain, they did a really good job in the sense that they made the block time faster. Um, then they also make the entry points, the barrier points, a lot easier for people. I'll give you some examples in a few seconds. Um, but what's even more interesting is, well, back then, Ethereum was still working. The consensus mechanism on Ethereum was the proof of work, but then they had the plans to go to Ethereum 2.0 and all, where they changed to proof of stake. But anyways, Polychain from the beginning was already using the proof of stake consensus mechanism. Um, but I think what I find the most interesting is, again, when you think about the popularity of Ethereum, and even with how expensive and crazy the gas fee is today, people are still building on Ethereum for whatever crazy reason. I have no idea, even though they
First
have
mover
like many other
advantage, I can tell you.
first mover advantage. So, but this is actually what Pulsion is not doing. You have all those qualities of Ethereum, but now you have it way, way cheaper. We're talking about way less than pennies cheaper, you know. So when you think about that security level, that stability, all the good stuff that Ethereum offers you, you have them on Pulse Chain. And all the bad stuff, you don't have them. That's more like a way to understand it. So I think, and for me personally, besides my interaction back in the days with social media based blockchains, which I had like also first-hand experience of how to really interact with Web3 based application, I also started to do that on Pulsion and really got to understand beyond the tokenomics, the whole thing around the smart contract, how it works, like a real life use case. And I'm also
Yeah,
excited to build products on Pulse Chain too, because again, there are these other blockchains, including Solana and all of that. Um, but I think arguably one can still um, there's still that advantage besides the first mover. There's still that really um, how would I even put it? That efficiency level, that I mean, we're talking about the Ethereum virtual machine, and that's what these other guys are compatible with. So everything is still being driven from Ethereum. And the guys behind Potion were like, we don't have to make something different. This is great. This is cool. This is really what is needed, but it has some issues. Let's tweak it here and there and make a
yeah,
better version of it. And I genuinely feel like, hey, Pulsion is not just um, it's not just another blockchain, but I feel like it's a real gateway to Web3, especially because of the lower entry barrier that it offers. You talked about how cheap Solana is and also Torn and um, some of the other guys, but Pulsion is way, 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 way cheaper. And then when you think about the fact that that is Ethereum basically, and I feel for me that's really mind blowing. And that's
hmm,
why I genuinely feel like, okay, hey, this is cool. And this is where I'm going to just keep digging in and digging in and digging in and digging in and putting all my stuff. When I say putting all my stuff, really using it and seeing how it works.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally, totally, totally. Yeah. One use case that I really like about Web3 is remittances. We send a lot of money home, and for me, it's like a breath of fresh air. You send someone, so for example, someone who's using Binance with an email address, the person gets the money real time,
Straight
like
up,
like
straight up
absolutely no cost
in
incurred.
seconds, actually less than seconds.
It's
The first
amazing.
time I, the first time I did that, I called my friend. I said, "Guy, I don't understand why people are still using banks, you know, because I just got his email address. Tack, tack, tack. He got it. I
Exactly.
mean, there,
It's
of course,
crazy.
there are other things, the pros and then the cons and all that, but it gets better. That's the
Of
point. I
course.
feel like
Of
it gets
course.
better.
Of course, we've
Um,
come a long way. I mean, we've come a very long way. Think about it. Like when cryptocurrency started, Web3 was not exactly a term that people were familiar with until we had the
yes, totally.
metaverse, until
Yeah.
NFTs came in, until
Hmm.
move to earn, play to earn. So many things came in, and right now we have. the AI even helping, like we've come a very, 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 and it's not over yet, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
becoming
yeah,
part of the life that we live. And yeah, I mean, I really cannot wait to see what the entire Web3 space will be in the next 5, 7, 8, 10 years.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I'm excited about it. And one thing I can tell people is just be patient with yourself and learn about it, understand it. I genuinely encourage people not to jump on it for the money. This is me preaching. Not to jump on it for the money, going for the tech, understand it. Because for me, again, I feel fundamentally like it's me knowing about the internet back in the days. I don't know if you've heard about this. I'm going to wrap up with this, and then you can wrap up so that we finish the session. I don't know if you've heard the story of Jeff Bezos, how he started, how he founded Amazon, what was his inspiration. So, um, he was, I think, a VP in some company, really doing great, earning well, and all that. And then he saw statistics that showed that the adoption of the internet was increasing at a rate of, I think, 2,000% or something in the year. And he understood that, okay, whatever is making people to use this thing called the internet at this rate, there is something there. And that was for him the conviction to leave his really nice job and begin to build Amazon. We all know how Amazon started. What it is today probably was not the intention from the beginning, but here we are with Amazon, I think the most valuable company in the world, and many other people too. So it's just understanding the trend, the direction it's going, and then what the future holds. Um, I saw many times on Facebook this ad about Netflix that they always say, hey, if you invested in Netflix, was it in the 2000 or whatever? If you had put just 1K in Netflix, you would have 14 million or whatever right now. And I was just talking to my wife some time ago that we're looking at how Netflix work. I love the application. I'm someone who I love good products, you know. LinkedIn is like one of my favorite products. I I just respect the tech behind LinkedIn. And then I was also, we were watching Netflix some days ago, and then the I feel like it has this smooth transition. You hover and then you get the thriller plays. You can reduce the voicing. You go to the next, the thriller plays, and then if you're playing one episode and something happens, when you go back, it continues from where you stopped. It asks so
Mhm.
just some really cool tech. But then what people don't know is that Netflix has been existing for God knows how long, and no one knew about Netflix. At least not the way it's mainstream today, you
Yeah.
know. And that's also the thing with many, many other unicorn applications or website or companies that we know today. You don't know about them from the beginning. They go through a lot of flaws, ups and downs, and everything. But once they get to that stage, it's gone already. It's like history. It's history for most people, you know. And that, for me, I feel like should be at least that's my motivation, to learn about the Web3 space, to interact with it, to build stuff around it, and hopefully before it becomes mainstream, I'm already in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, likewise, I'm a person who likes to use tech. So I'm not a builder. I'm not a developer. I can't write a line of code. I've never written "Hello World," but I understand the use case and how to sell it. Do you understand? So I understand it
Yeah.
well enough to be able to say, hey, to a business that you can get value out of this and it can change your
100%.
business in this way, or to an end user, it can make your life better in this way, you know. So for me, if it's not solving a problem, if it's not particularly solving a problem that I can relate to, for me, I don't find it interesting. Yeah, because there's no touch
Hmm.
point. But when it's
Yeah,
solving a
100%.
real-time problem, for example, Sweatcoin is, I don't know if you know, an application where
Yeah, I
your,
know
your
them.
steps can be used to, yeah. So if it's not really solving any real-time problem, a relatable problem, it's still too vague, right? It's still not relatable. And yeah, which is what I appreciate. Like move to earn, play to earn, all these kinds of things. Yeah. For me, that's really what I'm particular about in Web3.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome, awesome. Seems like we got something. I don't know. Let me see if we got something. Okay. personal. Oh, there's someone who wants to join. Yeah, we're actually running up, but let me bring Yemi onto the stage. Yes, yeah. Hi, Yemi.
Hi, hi Mike.
Hello, how's it
Um,
going?
yeah, it's fine. Good evening. Good evening,
Good
everyone.
evening.
Hi, good
Good
evening.
evening.
Good
Yeah, we're just
evening.
actually about to round up before you joined us. But yeah, feel free to share what you'd like to share about Web3, your experience in the blockchain, where you are today. Yeah, let's hear you.
Okay, well, for me, it's just what would I say? I would say Web3 has been just been like it has been for everyone, especially most people who really don't know much, but everybody thinks Web3 is all about cryptocurrency and all, but we are just learning it a bit by bit, and then just to learn from each other and see what's you know how best we can make use of the opportunities, because I know there are a lot of opportunities there in Web3. So yeah, just looking forward to catch up a little more, especially things on the DeFi side of Web3, so that I
Yeah.
can um, boost up my understanding as well. So yeah, that's where I'm in.
Yeah, DeFi is interesting. Well, anyway, I mean, I think yeah, you joined us right about the moment when we are ending the session. We've been here since 6 p.m. Berlin time. It's 1 hour already. And here's OG.
Really? I
Yeah,
actually
I know you guys in the UK, you always you mess up the time, always.
I don't know. I'm just waiting for the time to come. Ah, ah,
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's been an interesting session, and for sure, I would love to have you guys again. OG, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, totally. I
all
would
right.
love us to have this session another time, and yeah, hopefully we get to keep just pushing the narrative that people understand that hey, there's actually more in Web3 space than just crypto or any other thing which they hear out there, and just be genuinely interested to learn about the technology, the tech behind it, which direction it's going, and yeah, I come back to you guys again. Hopefully, we'll have another chat, and we talk about other aspects of Web3 and share more experience, and just yeah, let's learn together.
Sure. Sure. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you too,
Thank you.
and I wish everyone a very good evening.
All right. Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye for now. So.